All right. What's going on, everybody? Welcome and welcome back to the show. This is Chaos and Charcuterie. I am Brian K. James, and this is the personal extension of the Real Reality Realness podcast, where I read some headlines that are interesting to me out there on the internet, give you some reactions, some opinions on what the people are out there doing on the internet, and then we talk about my obsession with advice columns in a segment called Hey Ashley, which is a unsolicited advice segment that I do on the show where I read three different advice columns from three different women whose names all start with A and assume a fourth advice column's position by the name of Ashley and give my unsolicited advice to the people who wrote into their columns. So, with that being said, let's get started on podcast news, shall we? Today on the show, I had the pleasure of having Juju Andin, who is an incredible rapper. He is somebody who is very proud to carry the underground on his back. We had an amazing conversation. He's told me all about his story, and there's so many things that I want you guys to get into when it comes to our interview. So make sure you guys check that out. Tomorrow on the show, I'm going to be having Mark with a Q on the show, who is a filmmaker and artist and just I cannot wait for you guys to see everything that he has going on and hear all the things that he wants to talk about when it comes to his life story and all of the things that he's creating. Make sure you guys check that out tomorrow. As you guys know, I let you guys know every episode that new episodes of Real Reality Realness air Monday through Friday at 8 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Central. So make sure you guys are tuned in, zoomed in, and all of the things for that. Thank you guys for coming on the show. I appreciate you both, Juju and Mark. I'm so excited for people to hear what you guys have to say, who you guys are, and what you guys have to offer. So, with that being said, I apologize for not being here yesterday. For those of you guys that pay attention, there was no Chaos and Charcuterie yesterday, but there was a lot going on. The reason why there wasn't a Chaos and Charcuterie yesterday was because I was actually doing an interview with Joni from America's Next Top Model, the runner-up from Cycle 6. And we had just got caught up talking. We had such a good time. It was a really good interview. She stuck around for way longer than I intended, but I appreciate her giving me every minute of her time. So that interview will be out in a couple weeks, in a week or so, something like that. I can't remember the exact date. I think it might be February 3rd or 4th, something like that. I'll give you guys an update as it comes up. But yeah, thank you again, Joni, for coming and giving me all of the great stories, all of the great memories, all of the tea, all of the things. I can't wait for you guys to hear about her experience on America's Next Top Model. I can't wait for you guys to hear about her new show that she has coming out called Renovation Wars. I can't remember the network it's coming out on, but she did say that it's going to be streaming on Hulu and Sling, if I'm not mistaken. So make sure you guys check out Renovation Wars. I believe she said it was coming out in late February, February 24th or something like that. And so thank you again, Joni, for coming on the show. We had such an amazing conversation. We also got to talk about my conversation with Ferranda, who was on the same season as her. So thank you, Ferranda, for coming on the show as well. She'll be out sometime within the same week, actually. I'm sure they'll be out within a couple days of each other. So with that being said, we're back. We are here with a new episode. I appreciate you guys for being here. Now, let's get to the mess. We've had a lot of breakups happening, and I'm not talking about music, or I'm not talking about couples or like people. I'm talking about music, right? So my first story is Run DMC is like over. They're getting ready to perform their last show. It's a wrap. They are calling it quits. It is donezo for Run DMC right now, right? So according to Baller Alert on Instagram, that's where I'm reading this. Run DMC recently announced its final performance on the heels of its upcoming documentary. Daryl DMC McDaniels broke the news in a recent interview with Rock the Bells, saying that the iconic group will play its final live show at Madison Square Garden this spring. Run DMC is over, he said. The only way Run DMC gets back together is if the Beatles get back together. Can that happen? The final show that we are ever going to do is going to be at Madison Square Garden in April, DMC continued. It's going to be the last episode of the documentary that we're doing, Run DMC's last show ever, because it's time for Run to go be Paul McCartney and me to go be John Lennon. We're done. We we done what we could do. DMC continued to hint at other performers who would make an appearance during the homecoming, like Ice-T and the Wu-Tang Clan. The show is going to be like The Last Waltz by the band, he added. We're doing that movie idea. You'll see Ice-T come and do a song with us. You'll see Wu-Tang come do a song with us. Anybody can buy a ticket to the show. According to DMC, the documentary will be released through Netflix or the highest bidder for a handsome fee. We're going to do it with Netflix or the highest bidder, he said. It's going to be a live production. Run DMC is doing The Last Waltz at Madison Square Garden. Who wants to pay $100 million to own it? Okay. So pretty much I am wondering if there are actually deals on the table or if he is putting out into the press that he is doing this and that they're doing this documentary and all of this stuff and that they're putting together this last show and now he's putting out the bait to see who wants to buy the rights to it for streaming services. Because he specifically mentioned Netflix, which makes me wonder if there was a deal with Netflix on the table that he wasn't satisfied with. And so he decided to go to the internet to see if he can get a bigger offer pitched through the excitement of the audience. I'm sad to see Run DMC go. In the statement, it did sound pretty contentious, and I'm not exactly sure if there is beef between Run and DMC, but it did sound like there was a lot of contention and a lot of negative feelings going on between the two. And yeah, I hope that it's not ending on bad terms. I hope that it's just like, okay, like what else can we do? Like, what else is there to put together for our thing? You know what I'm saying? So, fingers crossed. Um, fingers crossed. Uh, I can't wait to see the documentary, however it is that we're going to get it. I'm not exactly sure how it's going to come out. I don't know if there is a deal on the table, but we'll see. They've been together for an extremely long time. They've literally been together. I think their debut album came out in 1985, if I'm not mistaken. So they have been icons and legends for the better part of at least 20 years. So, I'd like to see what the documentary is going to look like, what's going to come out of it, and what this last show is going to look like. So shout out to them. But in that line of thinking, I want to move on to Panic at the Disco announcing their split, and Brandon Urie saying that they're doing their last curtain call as well. I just read that the other day and I got actually really sad. But I'll read the article here for you guys. Panic at the Disco, the pop rock band that formed in Las Vegas nearly 20 years ago, gradually became a solo vehicle for frontman Brandon Urie, announced on Tuesday morning that the group will end after its forthcoming European tour. Urie says that he and his wife are expecting their first child, and I'm going to bring this chapter of my life to an end and put my focus and energy on my family. And with Panic at the Disco, and with that, Panic at the Disco will be no more. The final tour begins in Vienna on February 20th and concludes in Manchester, England on March 10th. Urie's statement follows below in full. Well, it's been a hell of a journey. Growing up in Vegas, I could have never imagined where this life would take me. So many places all over the world and all of the friends we've made along the way. But sometimes a journey must come to an end for new ones to begin. We've been trying to keep it to ourselves, and though some of you may have heard, Sarah and I are expecting a baby very soon. The prospect of being a father and getting to watch my wife become a mother is both humbling and exciting. I look forward to this next adventure. That said, I'm going to bring this chapter of my life to an end and put my focus and energy on my family. And with that, Panic at the Disco will be no more. Thank you for all of your immense support over the years. I've sat here trying to come up with the perfect way to say this, and I truly can't put into words how much it has meant to us. Whether you've been here since the beginning or just finding us, it has been a pleasure to not only share the stage with so many talented people, but also share our time with you. I'm looking forward to seeing everyone in Europe and the UK for one last run together. I love you. I appreciate you. Thank you for existing. Okay, so once again, they've been icons for a long time. They've been crazy successful for a long time. They've had an extremely long run. They've been together for 20 years. I have been with them since I Write Sins, Not Tragedy, and But It's Better If You Do. So I absolutely love Panic at the Disco. I've loved everything that they've done, everything that they've become. And I think this is the best way to close a chapter. I think that, after all of the success that they've had, and with him and his life coming kind of full circle, I think it may be time for him to put his focus elsewhere. Um, I would hope that the decision to end the group was something that was in, mutual congruence with everybody's line of thinking of where they want the band to go. Um, I think it makes perfect sense for him to want to make that decision. I just hope that it wasn't something like, oh, we're leaving, you guys in the dust because I'm having a baby. You know what I'm saying? I hope that there was some sort of conversation along the way, that was like, okay, well, this is what it's probably going to have to happen. And, how are we going to set everybody, up to where we can all leave this in the most positive situation? Do you get what I'm saying? So, shout out to Brandon. Shout out to his wife. Congratulations on the baby. Shout out to the rest of the members of Panic at the Disco. Um, this is a bit of a sin, but I'm not going to call it a tragedy. So, with that being said, Pete Davidson removed all of his Kim Kardashian tattoos. um, Pete Davidson went shirtless as he went on a trip to Hawaii with his rumored girlfriend Chase Sweet Wonders over the weekend. And aside from showing off his chest in the ocean, the comedian also revealed the tattoos dedicated to Kim Kardashian seemed to be gone. The Meet Cute star, 29, famously inked his body in tribute to his then girlfriend, getting several tattoos that reference Kardashian and even her kids. But the ink was noticeably absent during his romp in the ocean. Back in October, the star was photographed with a bandage above his left collarbone where his "My girl is a lawyer" tat was, causing speculation that he'd had laser treatments to remove the ink, and the photographs in Hawaii would confirm the removal, with the Kardashian tribute nowhere to be seen. On the other side of his clavicle, the Jasmine and Aladdin design he had to commemorate their first kiss during a skit on SNL is also gone. Perhaps the most extreme dedication to Kardashian was the word Kim, which the former Saturday Night Live star had branded on his chest, but that also has disappeared, notwithstanding a faint scar visible in the middle of his dog tattoo. Yikes. Scroll back down. Last spring, Kardashian revealed to Ellen DeGeneres that her boyfriend got the brand because of its permanent nature, saying Davidson told her, "I don't want to be able to get rid of it or to cover it up, and I just want it to be there as a scar on me." Along with the brand, the Funny Man's KNSCP neck tattoo, bearing the initials of Kardashian's kids, has also bit the dust. a decision Kanye West likely is pleased to hear about. Okay. With more than 70 designs covering his body, Davidson said in a 2019 interview with Inked magazine that getting inked was just a release. When I'm so manic and upset, sometimes it's the only thing that will work for me. Okay. However, just 2 years later, Davidson claimed that he planned to get rid of all of his tattoos by the time he turned 30 as he focuses on his acting career. Okay, so I mean, I guess that's a great way to start if you already plan on getting rid of the tattoos anyway, and you already plan on getting rid of everything at some point anyway. Why not just go ahead and get the ones you've already just got removed? I mean, maybe those are the easiest to remove. I don't know how this goes. I have a lot of tattoos, but I haven't considered really getting any of them removed. Um, So I guess we'll see how I feel about that later on. But I, how soon do you think is too soon to get tattoos dedicated to your partner or to your girlfriend or to your boyfriend? How soon do you think it's too soon to be out here getting people initials and names and brands and dedications and things like that tattooed on your body? Is there a too soon? Is there an inappropriate? Would you find it weird if you started dating someone for a few months and they got your kids' initials tattooed on them? Like, is that something that is normal? Is that something that is normal? But is that something that is not shocking to anyone? Is that something that is not at least eyebrow raising? Because I don't know how I feel about that. I don't know how I feel about that, but I am also a black parent who does not just allow any and everyone around my child. So, like, I don't necessarily know how I would feel about that of any rate in any type of context. So, I don't even know how I would feel about introducing somebody to my child within the time that they were dating. They were only dating for 9 months. So I don't even know if in the time that their entire relationship happened, if I would even introduce somebody to my child in that time. So the fact that he not only met their children, but also got their initials tattooed on them, I would be a little, mm, I would feel a bit of a way about it. I don't necessarily know if I would be like weirded out by it, but I would have some sort of concern by it. But you know, they don't move like black people no more, so I guess it makes sense. Um, have y'all heard about this story about the guy who's dating a 23-year-old that looks like an 8-year? Hold on. This comes from the New York Post, and the headline says, I'm dating a 23-year-old who looks like an 8-year-old girl. I'm not a creep. Okay. So, a hunky travel blogger has hit back at claims he is creepy for dating a 23-year-old woman who looks like an 8-year-old girl. Dan Swigert, 26, recently began romancing reality star Shauna Ray, whose growth was stunted due to treatment she received as a child for brain cancer. Ray, who weighs 50 pounds and is 3 feet 10 inches tall, is the subject of the TLC reality series I Am Shauna Ray. Swigert, or Swigert, I'm not exactly sure how you pronounce his last name, recently shared several snaps with Ray on Instagram before posting a video to the social media site vehemently did not blah, vehemently defending their connection. It's long been a struggle for Ray to date with the it's it's long been a struggle for Ray to date with the pint-sized personality, previously telling the Post that she's underestimated and excluded because of her appearance. In this clip, Swigert revealed that he reached out to Ray with flowers after seeing the first season of her show. The pair soon met in person and went on several dates together. It's very important to remember that Shauna is an incredible 23-year-old woman with a disability he explained. So, as you are building a connection with her, it's important to acknowledge that her disability and look past that and build it with who she is as an individual. Swigert continued, as soon as you say that she can't have a real world connection with someone else, you dehumanize her. She is a human being. She deserves to have relationships and connections with whomever she wants. Swigert, who hails from the UK, appears in the second season of I Am Shauna Ray, where he is forging a connection with the pint-sized star. But the Brit has been blasted by viewers with someone saying he is sick for thinking Ray is a legitimate love interest. Yes, she is 23, but she looks like and talks like an 8-year-old. She does not act like a mature woman. She is childlike, one critic claimed. If a man or woman can honestly say that they can see her as a sexual woman, they are either lying or sick, period. The other one allegedly stated, while the third one describes him as creepy. Um, I do think it's a little interesting. See, I can get around, not personally, but in my understanding of the situation, I can get around the disability part of it. I can get around someone being able to look past someone having a disability. But however, what worries or concerns me about the situation is the fact that she allegedly acts like a child. Like she is still engaging in childlike mannerisms in her 20s. I have not seen nor heard of this girl, Shauna Ray. So I don't know anything about her reality show. I Am Shauna Ray on TLC. I don't know anything about this show. I've never seen anything about it. Like I tell you guys almost every episode I do this, I have I usually do not read these articles ahead of time because I want to give you my most genuine reactions as I'm reading the articles. So I don't want to come with some sort of pre-created opinion of what I think about the article. I want to read it on air with you and then give you my live reaction. So in this, it does leave me with a lot of concern and it does raise a lot of questions for me. Is this girl a mature acting 23 year like a mature functioning 23-year-old? Because who am I to judge someone who's able to look past that, right? Hold on a second. Who am I to judge someone who's able to look past that, right? But if it's the acting, like if she still has an 8-year-old's mentality, that is concerning to me. That is extremely concerning, and that is extremely worrisome to me. I could like a part of me can almost try to rationalize with you getting around the aesthetic and the look of it all, right? But then if you're dealing with someone who basically looks like an 8-year-old and then also acts like an 8-year-old, that is concerning. Let me know how y'all feel about that, because that is definitely concerning. Before I jump to Hey Ashley, I want to quickly run through this article on Marilyn Manson. And this is from The Insider, and the headline says, a woman who got wasted at a Marilyn Manson concert blew up $15 million worth of property. She is suing the company that is serving her. Okay. So a 26-year-old woman left a Marilyn Manson concert wasted and devastated that residents of a Canadian street. Wait a minute. A 26-year-old woman left a Marilyn Manson concert wasted and devastated the resident. One more time. I'm sorry. A 26-year-old woman left a Marilyn Manson concert wasted and devastated the residents of a Canadian street after an explosive car crash. Daniela Leas, who pleaded guilty to 4 counts of impaired driving caused bodily harm in October 2020 and caused an estimated $10 to $15 million in damages. She was sentenced to 3 years in prison in February 2021 and is now suing the venue for kicking her out of the venue despite her level of intoxication. According to the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation, referred to as the car bomb fiasco by the CBC, the incident occurred on August 14, 2019 at 450 Woodman Avenue in London, Ontario, Canada, a 7-minute drive from the show at the Budweiser Gardens Arena. Leas crashed her Ford Fusion, which had been registered under her father's name, into a single home. But moments later, a broken gas line caused by the crash set off an explosion that ripped apart 4 homes and injured 7 people nearby, per the CBC. She also faced legal backlash in at least 6 civil lawsuits with victims urging her to pay for the damages, according to The Independent. This has prompted Leas and her father Sean to file a lawsuit against the Ovations Ontario Food Services, who they believe should also share some of the liability. According to the CBC, Leas and her father are accusing Ovations Ontario Food Services of having no regard for her intended mode of transportation as she existed. Budweiser Gardens, when they knew, maybe that was supposed to say exited. Budweiser Gardens, when they knew or ought to have known that she was or appeared to be intoxicated and or impaired. The pair also accused the company and or the servers of serving Leas when they knew or ought to have known she was intoxicated or would become intoxicated, the CBC reported. The lawsuit added that the workers had ejected Leas from the venue while failing to take steps to ensure that she would not drive home, according to the New York Post. Insider was unable to obtain a copy of the legal documents. The Ontario Superior Court of Justice and Oakview Group, which owns Ovations Ontario Food Services, did not immediately respond to Insider's request for comment. Leas was not immediately reachable for comment. So, I don't understand why she's suing these people when at the end of the day, I don't like every liquor ad you see, there is some sort of part of it that says drink responsibly. Just because a person creates alcohol, just because a person sells alcohol, just because a server serves alcohol, just because you get drunk and get put out of a place and the bouncer of the place puts you out for drinking alcohol, none of them are responsible for how you get home. Right? Now, I did see an episode of Girlfriends where Joan basically tricked Davis into taking her home because she said something about California law stating that if a patron were to get drunk at a proprietor's establishment, that it is a proprietor of said establishment's responsibility to ensure that they don't, die in a car crash on the way home. So I don't know if that applies to Canada or not. I don't know what Canadian law is when it comes to alcohol and drinking and driving and all of that stuff. But it does seem pretty precarious that she chose to drink. She chose to buy alcohol. She chose to drink said alcohol. She chose to continue drinking alcohol and then continue to, instead of trying to figure out some other alternative way of getting home, decided to drive her car. Right? At the end of the day, you have the personal accountability that you need to take for getting yourself in the position of getting put out drunk and having only your car to drive home. Like, had you drunk responsibly, maybe you wouldn't be in this situation. Maybe had you not consumed the amount of alcohol that you consumed, you wouldn't be in this situation. That is not me technically discounting anybody else's responsibility in the situation for how everything ended up. But however, it does say that you also held the same amount of irresponsibility as they did. The same amount of lack of responsibility that you're trying to accuse everybody else of, you took that same amount of lacking responsibility by consuming the amount of alcohol that you consumed to get in this situation in the first place. That's all I'm saying. So Let's move on to Dear Ashley or Hey Ashley. Ask Ashley. I don't know. We're gonna figure that out. I've been calling it Hey Ashley, but there's two dears and an ask. We'll see. So when it comes to this segment, this is the segment in my show where I read advice columns from three different ladies who give advice who just all happen to have names that start with an A. And I'm going to dive in, read their stories, read their responses, and give my opinions based on what I think, um, you know, they should be doing and what I think about their advice. I'll let you know if I agree with them, all of that stuff. One second. Okay, so the first headline for Dear Abby, because I like to always start with the GOAT. She's the first one I've ever heard of doing this. And when I found out that this was still going on, and that, because I remember Dear Abby from my childhood, the fact that this is still going on makes me so happy to see. So I'm always going to start with Dear Abby. Dear Abby, I want to divorce my husband, but he has cancer. Yikes. Dear Abby, my husband and I have been married for 9 years. While we were dating, he was kind, considerate, and loving. After we got married, he turned into a chronic complainer, something he later confessed he had been hiding while we were dating. He talks to me like I'm trash and then gets nice when he wants something. He complains about my grown children, my best friend, and even if I leave for work a couple minutes early. He is a miserable person. I cannot do anything to make him happy, and I can't take this anymore. He has taken things away from me that I love: flowers, gardening, pets, books, friends, etc. I'm ready to leave, but he has cancer and I feel guilty. He is clear right now, but it will come back. I don't want to stay. Life is too short to live this way. He has a great support system with his family. They would take care of him. My health has been affected by him, his terrible attitude. What do I do? Signed, worn out wife. Dear wife, what do you do now? What you do now is consult a lawyer, pack your bags, and leave before he worsens. Do not expect your husband to be grateful for any of the efforts you have made on his behalf during the course of your marriage. During the time you were dating, he hid from you the fact that he was a verbal abuser. Now you know he is a fraud. Don't feel guilty for protecting yourself and reclaiming your life. I agree. Um, at the end of the day, it's not like, you're his caretaker and he is completely like bedridden and needs, constant care, and you all can't afford a nurse to come and help with his cancer treatments. At the end of the day, he's clear right now. He's in remission right now, and it may come back, but at the end of the day, that really isn't your problem. And if he is not able to value and treat you with respect as the person who has held him down, not only as his wife, but as the person who has stuck by him through his cancer, um, what the fuck for? Like, I'm sorry, like why? There's no reason for you to be there if he doesn't respect you. You know what I'm saying? Like, I understand that even in this admission of guilt for leaving him while he has had cancer or may rehab cancer, you would feel guilty for leaving him. That just shows in itself that you're a better person than he is. But however, I don't feel like just because he may get cancer again, that obligates you to stay with him. I don't think that those two things are connected to each other. I think that you did what you had to do by seeing him to remission, and the fact that he is not able to treat you with any type of decency or respect means that he does not deserve you to stick around for a second round of cancer. My advice is get your ass the hell on. You've done enough. You have grown children. You have a life and friends that you need to get back to. And his miserable ass needs to figure out what he gonna do if this cancer were to return. Because if he is not able to value and appreciate the people who are there to ride it out and stick it out with him, then maybe he doesn't need to have a support system that is going to ride it out and stick it out with him. Maybe his family is able to be supportive and nurturing and caring for him because they don't get what you get because you're there to be to be the person to take the brunt of all of that. And his family only sees the best parts of him. So maybe you should leave all of the responsibility on his family so that they can finally see what a monster he is. Just saying. Let's move on to Ask Amy. Ask Amy, how can I get my boundary leaping walking buddy to stop giving me gifts? Okay. Dear Amy, I have a casual friend who won't stop giving me excessive gifts, even when I have asked her to stop. We take morning walks together, but we do not share any other social activities. She found out when my birthday is and surprised me with a custom made cake and a large bag full of 13 items of a large bag full 13 items of what she called trinkets. But some of these items retail for at least $25 to $30 each. I thanked her, but also protested loudly that it was way too much. I tried to reciprocate on her birthday, but could not keep up. Christmas was even worse. I feel so inadequate and uncomfortable that I talked to my therapist about it. She suggested picking a time where there are no occasions coming up and have a frank talk with her about how uncomfortable this makes me. So I did. I asked her if we could stop engaging gifts, and she agreed. This year, around Thanksgiving, I reminded her again to please not get me a Christmas gift, and she responded with an eye roll, okay, sure. This year, she waited until December 26th to leave it on my front porch and claims it's not a Christmas gift. After I saw what was in the gift bag, the total value close to my entire gift budget for my grandkids, I sat down and I cried. Is something wrong with me? I know I'm practical and frugal to a fault. Is this a new normal? Am I really that out of step with the times? I don't want to seem ungrateful, but how do I get her to stop? What do you do? Signed, retired recipient. Dear recipient, you are not out of step, and this is not the new normal. You are a practical and frugal, you are not practical and frugal to a fault. Your walking partner is a boundary leaper to a fault. Your choice to follow your therapist's advice is a good one, and you have handled this well. You've asked the other person to cease this behavior, which has made you so uncomfortable, and she has agreed. You have asked, what would I do? I would react the same way you have, bewildering and doubting myself. I think you should consider returning the gifts. Tell her I was honest about how uncomfortable this makes me. I'm upset that you haven't respected our agreement. I can't figure out why you don't understand my feelings, but for our friendship to continue, I need you to stop doing this. Please, no more gifts of any kind. I just want to enjoy our relationship without anything else attached. Can you do that? If she responds with a wink wink, a nod nod, then you should assume that she will simply never take your needs seriously and respect your wishes. There you go. I am personally not a person to have a three strikes you're out rule. I feel like once you make your feelings very clear and you're like, okay, this is what I feel and this is what I want going forward. If they don't respect that, then cut their ass off. Like, I'm sorry. If she's not able to respect the fact that you do not want to exchange these lavish and expensive gifts with her, and that you don't want to exchange in all of this other extra behavior when it comes to walking, then maybe you just shouldn't walk with her no more. Maybe you should just walk somewhere else. Maybe you should just find another walking buddy. Because at the end of the day, it's the gifts now. But that lack of considerations for your feelings and concerns will bleed over into other things later on. Right now, it's the gifts. Who knows what it may be later? And at this point, you've made it blatantly clear that you don't like the fact that she does that. So if you don't like the fact that she blatantly does that, then stop her from doing it. And how you stop her from doing it is stop walking with her ass. Period. So I'm sure that she's probably a cool person to kick it with. I'm sure she's probably a fun person to hang out with or whatever, blah, blah, blah. But at the end of the day, if she's not going to respect your boundaries and respect your wishes as a person, then she doesn't need to be within those boundaries. And she doesn't need to be within those extensions of those wishes. That's just kind of like it. Like, you've done your due diligence and you've done your part by stating exactly how you feel about it. But if she's not willing to respect that, then there's nothing for you to leave her to respect. At the end of the day, it's kind of over with. I don't think that you should allow somebody to disrespect you to the point of you feeling the need to leave the relationship with contention or animosity or hate for that person. I think that you should be able to draw a line and a boundary fast enough that if you do need to cut the cord or cut back from that friendship, you're able to do so in time enough to where you may be able to maintain some sort of cordial interaction with that person without completely cutting the cord and being angry with that person. I think that people give people more chances than they're worth, and then by the time that they do cut the cord, there's resentment and there's hatred and there's bitterness towards that person because they let it go on for so long and they let it happen for so long without checking it and cutting it, that now there's no way that y'all can be friends. There's no way that y'all can be cool. There's no way that y'all can circle back because now that person done pissed you off and crossed the line with you so much that now you can never fuck with them again. And that's because you did not cut the cord immediately and set that boundary fast enough for yourself. So now you put yourself in a position for that person to go back and do it over and over again because you circled back on them too quickly. It's just my opinion. I'm gonna go ahead and skip on over to Miss Dear Annie. I usually do 3 of these. If I have time, I might do a 4th one. We'll see. Dear Annie, I wonder if it's still worth trying to keep our family together. Dear Annie, I'm at an impasse. On the one hand, I want to keep fighting for my 3-person family of 18 years, but on the other hand, I wonder if staying is doing more harm than good for our daughter of 17. After a Christmas argument, her mom left and returned so late that all hopes for a Christmas dinner dwindled. My daughter was sad this morning. Her mom was still angry, but is calmer now. It's tough to know what's right, but staying seems like what my gut tells me to do. Debbie and I are not married, but have been a family since she was pregnant. She had a tough childhood and gets angry a lot. There's no reason to not be happy, so I will keep trying. Signed. Oh, Lord, I done popped the chair my thing. I gotta go get the other one out the car now. Anyway, signed family man. Dear family man, I'm sorry that you and your daughter are going through this. It sounds like your wife has lots of unresolved anger that and a difficult time allowing herself to experience the joys of being together and peaceful on Christmas. Needless to say, you would benefit tremendously from working with a professional counselor or a couples counselor for both of you to get a root of the blow-ups. Continue to reassure your daughter how much you love her, and when your wife is calm, tell her how sad your daughter was after she left. As far as doing more harm than good, a 17-year-old wants to know that she is loved and safe, even if one parent is acting like a child. Um, I'll start with the child. I agree. I think that, at the end of the day, as long as a child feels like they have a safe space, there is some level of them being okay that will happen. I feel like that is where your focus should be at the moment, is securing the safety and the boundaries of your child and making sure that your child feels safe right now. I think that is most important. Once you kind of have that at bay, I do feel like you should have that conversation and talk to your wife and be like, listen, there's immediate change that needs to happen, and it's not something that is something that needs to be gradual. I understand that you've had a hard childhood. I understand that you've gone through a lot, but at the end of the day, you're making your problems everybody else's problems, and it's affecting everybody else negatively, and you've become a hurt person that is hurting other people. And this is speaking as somebody who has been through a lot of trauma, who carries a lot of resentment, hurt, bitterness towards a lot of the pain that I've gone through in my own life. I am actively battling against being angry and bitter and, you know, savage towards the entire world around me because I don't understand a lot of the way that I have personally been treated throughout my entire life because of the shit that I've gone through, and I try to use that as a conscious reason to not treat people crappy. Like I try to use what I have been through as a person as a conscious excuse to never treat people the way that I've been treated. So, with that being said, I just feel like you need to protect yourself, one, and protect your child most. I think that at the end of the day, this is never going to be a conducive environment for your child if the child's mother cannot step outside of herself to consider the feelings of the child first, because you all chose to have her. She didn't choose to manifest herself inside of your stomach and inside of your family. Y'all chose to have her. So at the end of the day, she's the person who needs to be considered first out of this entire situation. I understand that everybody needs to take care of themselves. And if you don't have it to give to yourself, how can you give to other people? But there is a level of compartmentalizing that needs to happen when you decide to bring a child into the world that is more fragile than your ego. Sorry. That's the catch 22 of the world. That's the double negative of the world. That's the other side of the coin. You know what I'm saying? It's like, while if you don't have it to give to somebody else, how are you going to give it to anybody else does apply. If you bring a child into this world, your feelings no longer matter because that child is going to need to be taken care of regardless. So, with that being said, my advice is to protect the child first and foremost, and everything else that falls up under that, protect her first, protect yourself second, and then figure out everything else later. That's really where I'm kind of at with that. Um, but yeah, I think that's a pretty good place to close. Protect your peace, pretty much. Keep yourself safe, keep your family safe, keep the people who need you safe, and then everything else that falls up under that, handle it accordingly to how your peace needs to be protected. Um, that's it. So, with that being said, I think I'm going to go ahead and close here. I want to thank all of you guys for tuning in. I want to thank everybody that stopped by and tuned in. Left love. Thank you so much for being here. I want to make sure that I thank Juju Andon for coming on the podcast today. I want to thank Mark with a Q for being on tomorrow. Thank you guys both for being on the podcast and giving so much of yourselves in your conversations with me. I want to thank all of you guys for listening to the podcast every day, 5 days a week, and enjoying, commenting, doing all of the things and continuing to tune in every single day. I appreciate you guys so much. It means the world to me. Make sure that you are subscribed to the podcast, Real Reality Realness with Brian K. James. It is on all the streaming services. It is on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Amazon, Audible, iHeart, Pocket Cast, Overcast. It's on just about any place that you can stream your podcast at. Make sure you tune into my sister podcast, Housewives History with Megan and Brian, where we take a iconic episode that aired the week that we're recording in history, and we recap it and talk about all things Housewives, all things HCU. We play games, talk a little shit, do all the things, and go on a lot of really fun tangents that end up somehow circling back around to the episode that we're covering. That podcast is streaming all of the places that I just mentioned that you can stream Real Reality Realness. And if you go to the link in my bio here at the Real Reality Realness on Instagram and my personal Instagram, Brian Corday James, you can click the link in my bio and it'll take you to a link to both of those podcasts to listen to. So make sure you guys tune in March and stay tuned. I am premiering a new segment of my podcast. It is a collaboration with Dave Lennon from the Lost in the Groove podcast. We are putting out a new collaborative show called Groove and Gravity, where we take artists from all over the music spectrum and we dive into their personal lives and their backstories and their life stories as artists. And then we dive into their legacies and their contributions to the music industry. And we have a deep conversation about how their life story has impacted their music, how their music impacted their life, how their music impacted us, how their music impacted the world, how their stories impacted us, and all of the things regarding artists and their legacy. So make sure you tune into that. We are premiering that in March. Make sure you tune in and subscribe to Lost in the Groove podcast with Dave Lennon, Carissa the Beautiful, and myself. Make sure that you tune in to my Drag Race recap with Giselle from the Who Asked Me podcast. We do that every Monday, and I release it either Monday night or Tuesday morning on my YouTube channel and on my podcast as well as a segment called Drag Cap, Drag Race Recaps. We talk about all things. Right now, we're covering season 15 of RuPaul's Drag Race, and we're talking about all things the episode, all things Drag Race universe, and all the things that have to do with drag, understanding drag, performance. As somebody who loves drag from Giselle's perspective and is a huge fan of drag, and as somebody who is a former professional drag queen myself. So make sure you tune into that. I appreciate you guys. Make sure you're also subscribed to my YouTube channel, Georgia Carolina, where Chaos and Charcuterie also streams, as well as some of the most impactful interviews that come from the podcast. I'll put the videos of the ones who want to be posted, as well as the ones who were just really impactful to me. You can go watch my interview with Leanne Locken from the Real Housewives of Dallas on my YouTube channel, as well as listen to it on the podcast. And I also encourage you to go and listen to my interview with Diamond Styles from the Marsha's Plate podcast. That is one of the most, if not the most impactful interview that I've ever done on this show yet. And I want everybody who is under the sound of my voice or under the gaze of my face to go and check out that episode. So make sure you're subscribed to that. Hit the notification bell on the YouTube channel and the podcast. Leave me ratings, likes, opinions, critiques, all the things. I appreciate it all. I love every single one of you from the bottom of my green heart emoji. And I encourage you all to be real, stay in reality, and always bring the realness. Keep the mess in the message and misbehave yourselves. So with that being said, we will be back. I appreciate you guys for being here. And until next episode, peace. Love you guys.